And welcome to another episode of Funny Talk with Mangelli and Max. I'm your co-host, Tom Mangelli. This is my other co-host, Doug Max. Say hi, Doug.
Three co-hosts now.
Yes, but we have a wonderful guest tonight. Who's our guest, Doug?
Who is our guest? Steve Rinaldi.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Steve Rinaldi.
Why am I yelling at the computer? I don't know. Trying to get used to this Zoom podcasting world we now live in 2021. Sorry if I have a lack of experience, fellas.
That's okay. You bring a touch of class to our show. You'll see.
Thanks, Tom. I appreciate
What
that.
are you saying? Are you saying we're both classless?
I can only speak for myself, but yeah, you too.
Listen, I don't know why you're calling him class. Listen, with your hat off, you are very well groomed, my friend.
Are you talking about me or Tom? You talking about me or Tom, Doug?
Yeah, I'm talking about both of you.
Steve, you're going to find yourself not knowing what Doug's talking about a lot.
You reminded me of this wonderful story.
Oh, God, not a wonderful story.
Oh, my God, have you never seen Shark Tank and Mr. Wonderful? His wonderful stories are great. Mine are different. But so the reason I answered, I really meant Tom's hair because he was the one with the hat on. And he is really well groomed. Look at that.
There you go, Tommy. Take the hat off for the whole episode. Grow a set of balls. Be like me.
I've been wearing the hat all day.
You can't.
There you go.
You can't tell on Zoom, but that's 100% polyethylene. So I've got to tell this. I haven't told this story ever, but I was dating this woman back in like post college, or maybe in college, and she had a roommate. And some night, like months after we had kind of dated, I was dating her roommate. Her other roommate called me up really drunken one night. And I said something like, I think you're going to be seeing more of me, referring to my being around her roommate. And this drunken roommate said, for me or the other woman.
Yeah.
Like an idiot. I said, for the other woman. I should have said, for both of you. You both have lovely hair. Okay. Do we have a sponsor? Yeah.
What did that story have to do with anything?
Because Steve said, who had nice grooming, me or Tom?
No, you mentioned you look classy without your hat on. I believe that's what you said. And I was asking if it was meant to me or Tom, because I wear a lot of I'm guilty of that. I wear a hat a lot.
See, I didn't know that. I've never met you, but I didn't want to hurt your feelings. We haven't met. You know, I don't want you getting
before you get Doug, before you get a chance.
Everybody loves a sensitive comedian, right?
Doug, before you get a chance to hurt his feelings, I think we should shout out to our sponsor, J. Irwin Productions. If you want to put together a comedy show for a fundraiser, a showcase, a family party, contact Jack at jirwinproductions.com. He's the guy to know. He's the guy to call. He'll put together a great show, and he's great to work with. Right, Doug?
Absolutely, Tom. And
yes.
Now special during these COVID no comedy times.
Yes.
So for like $5, you can get a comedian to drive 2.5 hours and clean, your kitchen. The bathroom is an extra like $2-3 probably. If you want other rooms, we can.
I didn't realize this podcast is going to go to such a dark emotional place.
I'm serious.
Doug will have you suicidal before you leave.
I love so many of my friends, and they're desperate. They'll do anything for comedy, even if it's scrubbing a sink where they get to say something witty. People need contact. They need comedy. They need clean bathrooms. So Jack Hoffman at jirwinproductions.com. He'll hook you up. You supply your own cleaning things, though, you know?
All right. So that being said,
That
uh,
concludes the portion of the show where Doug talks. That's what you were gonna say. Go on. All yours, Tom.
Steve, I'm anxious to hear all about you. I'm sure all of our listeners are also. Tell us your journey in comedy.
Journey. Wow.
Now it's gotta be.
2012, I started. I started in Philly, and at the time, the Laugh House was still around, where Kevin Hart started. Bill Burr taped his first album there. That was the big club in Philly at the time. Of course, we had Helium Comedy Club, but there wasn't many opportunities to break in a comedy club at that level, being so new. You don't have much of an act. But there was a big open mic scene in Philly when I started. So I came up in a lot of bars and restaurants and strip clubs in the Philly area. Ain't no strip club like a Philly strip club. So,
You know,
but
I want to tell you, I don't know you. Tom suggested, I know you've done some shows together, but I saw a video you had online, and it was like 5 years old.
yeah.
And what did I tell you, Tom? I said, you want Steve Rinaldi and RINA. No, I'm kidding. I said, really, Steve, 5 years ago, I think it was from 2015. You really had very strong delivery, great style, presence. I liked a lot of your humor. So
You had only been doing it a couple of years at that point.
Yeah, I'm still, I'm still new. I'm a fan of comedy first and the art form. And, I've been very lucky. I opened for a lot of big name, top tier headliners already. I got lucky to share the stage with like in Chicago. I got on stage one night right before Hannibal did a drop in. I opened for Andrew Schultz, who's pretty big right now. Andrew Schultz, Dan Soder, who's a very terrific comic. Dom Herrera, who was one of my comedic influences from South Philly. He's very famous. I'm still new. I know that you're supposed to sell yourself, but I credit the art form, and I know how long it takes to really be at that top tier. We all have our own goals, and I want to be able to close a show for an hour and a half with punchline after punchline, drop your drink funny. That's just the style of comedy that I've always been a fan of and seen coming up in Philly when I would hang out at the back of the comedy clubs and try to break my way in.
Yeah. Now it's funny. I before the shutdown, before the quarantine, I was trying to get some more exposure to Philly. I'm a Jersey guy. I was born and raised in Jersey. Never moved out of Jersey. So I did Manhattan. I did around Rockland County, mostly New Jersey, a little Delaware, and a little of Philadelphia. But I really want to get sink my teeth into that Philly market, and I really haven't gotten to yet. And now I live not too far from there, so it's really no reason.
Yeah, I mean, the Philly. You look at Helium Comedy Club, which is a top tier club. You look at Punchline, top tier club. Punchline Philly. Atlantic City. I mean, I know people they shit on the town, but there's a lot of good comedy in Atlantic City right now, like where you'll see some top name acts coming in and out all the time. It's still a weekend destination where big name comics want to come to Atlantic City and perform. Right. That whole tri-state New Jersey area, it's still a great place to develop and get on stage. And, Philly right now, I think the fact that New York City hasn't opened up all their comedy clubs yet based on CDC guidelines.
Right.
you can get like really, really, really lucky and go to a great show in Philly right now. I don't know how much longer this is going to happen where all the top clubs in New York aren't going to be open, you know?
Right.
But,
Yeah, and I know, didn't Matt Bridgestone have Rich Voss at one of his venues recently?
Matt had Rich Voss at the Chelsea bar in Atlantic
Okay.
City, and I opened for Rich Voss on the beach. The backdrop was the beach.
Nice.
Oh man, it was great. Yeah, Rich Voss, he's so quick and witty. He's performing a set and there's no backdrop. It was just a guardrail like behind him. It's a public beach in Atlantic City, and a guy's walking his dog behind him. And the audience just sees Rich Voss performing and this guy walking his dog, and the dog starts peeing like right behind Rich Voss. And he did some crazy improvisation. It was so funny.
Yeah.
But,
I remember seeing him when he was starting out at Rascals in West Orange.
really?
Yeah, I used to go there all the time. It was like the early 80s, I guess.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you weren't you started, you're just like committed to the Central Jersey scene?
No, I'm all over Jersey, but I started about what is it? About 9 years ago. But I was a fan long before that. And you mentioned Dom Irera. I used to see him at the Improv in New York when he was starting out. And as much as I like him now, he had it rough going when he first started.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was like hit or miss. Sometimes he'd be good, sometimes he'd be like really bad.
Does that encourage you, Tom?
Yeah, I mean,
You're always good. You're always a solid act. Anyway, Steve, Tom is a huge comic in New Jersey, and
I'm huge anywhere.
when he stands on the step ladder, the high weight rating, everybody can see him around here.
You can see me from your Jewish laser in space, Doug.
Yeah, you're good. The Jewish Laser is my comedy. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
So
That's
you guys started together, you and Doug.
Yeah.
When was that? Do you want to reveal the year?
What year was that?
What are we saying now? 8 or 9 years? It's hard to know. I think.
Oh, I know. I was 50 when we started. I'm 59 now. So it was 9 years ago.
Wow.
And I was 47 when I started, and I'm 64 now. So at the same time, 9 years.
You haven't aged as well. That's the problem.
I've been looking at it. That's not nice. And now I have to say something about your weight.
Oh, go ahead.
No, listen, audience, we've been getting a lot of email complaining that people say, we know you and Tom love one another, but you're both really mean to one another. Tom makes jokes about Doug not being funny, which clearly hurt his feelings a lot. And they say, Doug, you're very mean to Tom about how fat he is. So we're going to stop that tonight. This is right. We're going to turn over a new leaf. Tom is going to turn over a new leaf and turn it into pesto. That's what happens when you turn Tom over. Tom is very big listening audience. Kathy.
I like your background, Tom.
Thank you. It's for
Do you
the Jewish.
switch it up every episode, or?
I put a different one up every episode. Yeah.
He doesn't want to get hit by a Jewish space laser, so he's showing his solidarity to space. He thinks Jews are, Tom, we're not stupid people. We're going to see what's the word you're trying to be ingratiating. Okay, it's very clear and obvious. You need some 6-pointed stars in the background. That's what you do.
By the way, I can be seen from outer space.
Okay.
Me and the Great Wall of China.
So, Tom, both of you, if you heard that your representative in Congress thought that Jews had space lasers, would you think, good, this is a woman who's really informed and telling us the truth, or something else?
I
Hey,
don't, I don't, I
nowadays,
don't comment on politics.
yeah,
It's the
I
one
stay
direction
away.
I don't go in.
Rinaldi, isn't that a Jewish name? You got a space laser? Steve, do you know where Italian? Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you,
Italian millennial though.
Yeah.
How twisted is that? Italian millennial.
do you know where your
You probably can't even guess my
where,
thought.
where does it come from in the homeland? Do you know where?
Calabrese.
Calabria. Okay.
Calabria, yes.
Where is Calabria? I don't know if I've been there.
Just
Calabria,
outside
and
of Philly.
I just did ancestry.com. I have a little Turk in me. A little
Really?
Turkish. How crazy is that?
Wow.
25%. One of my great grandmothers, she got down, huh? I was baffled, you know?
My ex-wife was Italian, so I've been to Italy I've been to Italy more times than most Italians have been to Italy.
I went to Italy one time. One
Where'd
time
you
I
get
went.
to?
I went to Rome,
Yeah.
the island of Capri,
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Florence, and one more area. I can't remember. It was another island. Island of Capri. Oh, Positano. Did I say that right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Positano is on the coast. It's on the
Uh-huh.
I was there too. Wonderful coastline.
Yeah.
I went to Little Italy. I didn't fit.
Oh, Tom. And years, that was a
When you guys gonna come up and do my show on Tuesdays? Notice how I slipped in the plug right there.
Yeah. Where's the show? Tell us.
You did the show, Tom.
when and where is
Every Tuesday night I have a show in Magnolia, New Jersey, South Jersey.
and it's live?
It's a live show in the basement of a beautiful
Really?
Italian modern style bar restaurant.
Really?
And Tom did a set about a month ago. Did very
Yeah.
well.
In this for
Doug, you
like,
got to come out, buddy.
are you
Yeah, I
sure?
gotta come back
You
down.
only knew me for 20 minutes. You haven't heard any of my animal stories. So tell me of your venue and what it's like and so
It's they got a theater in the basement. It's a very big building with parking. It's right there on the pike. And yeah, I mean, I got very lucky that I found a place where I can continue to work out material on a weekly basis because not a lot of comedians have that right now. So
it's good.
every Tuesday night I got
a place we can work out material, but we can't do it here. We got a show to do.
Now, Steve, you have a pretty solid audience every week, right?
if you consider 25 to 30 people solid, I appreciate you,
Hey,
Tom.
nowadays that's solid.
How many,
Yeah, everybody's masked up and acting accordingly until they get that third glass of Grey Goose. A lot of South Philly Italians in there, so
you need to tell comics. You need to say if you want to come, you need to bring like 3 to 6 cardboard cutouts.
I'm not, going on to that's making me think about bringer shows. It's such a
Yeah,
gray area. I never wanted to be that guy that's booking a show and saying, "Oh, can you bring people?" It's just.
So you know what? I'll tell you something about bringers, and if younger comedians are listening, you can learn something. Maybe it worked for me. It might not work for you. So first of all, I'm very grateful for my comedian producer of bringer show friends. Because I like every comedian.
Wait, you're making me think of something that I brought up in my podcast, Ball Breaking with Mike and Steve. Us comedians, we always categorize each other as comedian friends.
Yeah.
We never say, "Oh, that's my friend Bobby. That's my friend Mikey. That's my friend Doug. He's a comedian friend." It's like
anyway,
you want to make sure they know.
Yeah.
I don't, people become friends for a lot of different reasons. Sometimes it's because you go through trauma. I have some friends in the comedy world simply because they really made me laugh at a time that I really needed to laugh. That's the only reason I like Tom. It was it was a
Oh,
Tuesday.
that's a nice thing to say. I don't think that was a punchline.
It was the one
Unless
joke.
I don't know Doug's humor. I've only been
Oh,
listening
I'm
to him.
warning you right now, Doug has no punchlines. He's allergic to them.
Don't make me follow that style of comedy, Tom. Blah, 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 something funny. Blah, 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 something funny. It's formulaic. It's dull. So what was I talking about? I forget. It's probably
You were
best.
talking about your comedy bringer friends.
So first of all, they take a lot of heat, and you have no idea what work it takes to produce a showcase show in New York. And
I do have an idea.
And I've actually run the show for a few of them a few times, and you would not believe what a group of fetching, whiny little comics are. And
Definitely.
bring a show and fill a room in New York. It can take. I've been on lineups that start off with like 22 people. Thank God some bail and say I can't. I don't have any.
Oh, yeah.
90%.
Well, I'm familiarized. I've done bringer shows in New York. I mean, my whole thing is you got to find your own path. Like,
Yeah.
I think we all know there's no rules to this.
Yeah.
There really isn't.
I agree with that.
It's like look at it now. Look at 2021 and how we're adapting into COVID. It's just like a bunch of comedians they're ending up with a computer screen, and I don't know if you guys have done a Zoom comedy set. I did one, and I was just like, this is too weird. This is way too weird.
That was my experience. Doug and I did one together, and I haven't done a second one since.
Wait, next to each other?
On the same show.
But I did another.
No, it's just like you got to a point. I don't know about you guys said you've been doing it 9 years. So have I. So it's like you get to this point where you're so comfortable performing in front, like a live audience and public speaking. Now you're doing it alone in a room.
Yeah.
In front of a computer.
Yeah. It's unnatural.
It's just, I don't know. I'm not going to knock it because a lot of people are making money off of Zoom comedy sets.
People can, number one. Number two, depending on how you use it and how the show is formatted, it can be really good. And it helps you exercise, if nothing else. But anyway, I did want to say about my friends who produce bringer shows. I learned early on, I wanted to do a show somewhere. I wanted to do Caroline's. And the guy goes, bring 6 people. I go, listen, I'm in New Jersey. In order to get 6 people, I need to get a promise from like 10. He says, if you get a promise from 10 and none of them come, you can go. I'm like, in order to get a promise from 10, I got to get a promise from 12. Anyway, it all worked out. I ended up doing it, but I realized you could kind of negotiate. And with the other shows, seeing some comics get up in New York the first time ever in their life, I've been, at that point, I'd been doing it 3 or 4 years. I was like, almost, I appeared like I could be funny. People were grateful.
And that's why I never want to do.
Anyway, they didn't make me bring. I was going to say they stopped. I'd come. I'd add something to the show. I didn't have to bring people. I would if I could, and that's the way I did it. I stopped doing them.
What I'm seeing is building a reputation for yourself in your own area can really go a long way, because now when you start popping down to New York, a referral from somebody that's of some importance goes a really long way. Like, oh yeah, I remember him. He opened for me at the Funny Bone in Albany. He's a solid act. Give him a couple minutes,
Right.
And you never know who's in the crowd. It's just that bringer shows just weren't something that I wanted to get into a habit of doing. Plus, you got to factor in. Now you're from Jersey. I'm from Philly. If I get 10 people to come, They gotta pay for the train to get up there. How much are drinks in comedy clubs in New York?
It depends on where you go. But anyway, you know,
$200.
I wanted to say, I tell a lot of people, if you develop a relationship and you add something to a showcase show, don't call it a bringer show. If you add something to a show with up and coming comics,
Oh, yeah.
or what's the opposite of up and coming? They're up and they're going to go, I hope. Anyway, you get a great appreciative audience because it's the family and friends of these other comedians that are up and coming, and they want to support them. So they don't want to be jerks. So they'll laugh at like them. They can be too accepting. You know, they'll like, let me finish my sentence before you laugh. But what I wanted to say was without those showcase shows, we wouldn't know of any comics. The venues in the big cities would not be able to stay in business.
Yeah, you gotta start somewhere. And I know from talking to multiple people, when Amy Schumer first started doing comedy in Manhattan, she did a lot of bringers.
Yeah.
Martin Lawrence, I don't know how true this is, but they say in DC, he had there was a showcase bringer at the DC Improv, and he brought out, like, it might not have been the DC Improv. It was a big club in Washington at the time, and he filled it up with everybody he knew. The right people seen him, and from there he exploded. Def Comedy Jam happened, and he became the house MC for that. And we all know the kind of stand-up Martin Lawrence became.
Yeah.
It's a lot of it's even when I was in Chicago, like a lot of old school comics from the Chicago comedy scene, they can't believe Arsenio Hall made it. They never thought he was like a solid killer act. But I read, I don't know if you guys read a lot of books on these guys at the top, and like the top tier headliners. A lot of times luck's involved. They create their own luck, but it's like time and place. One thing happens that connects to another. That's why you can't knock a class. You can't knock a bringer show. You got to do whatever works for you.
And these people, listen, these people are working to give you a venue.
Oh, yeah.
That's appreciative. The other thing I wanted to say, I think the biggest mistake I started to make and I stopped was this, doing bringers to get on to different clubs. And I'm of the belief that if you're kind of funny and you find a home that you're comfortable in, get good in those clubs. Get good in those 1 or 2 or 3 places. And then when you go to that club you really crave, whatever it might be, Gotham or Helium or whatever, you're undeniable at that point. You fall on that radar and you come out.
Couldn't agree with you more. Like Helium Comedy Club in Philly. I do spots with them there. Punchline in Philly, I do spots for them there. I'm always going to keep my home clubs in my hometown. I'm never going to burn that bridge. But when I first started coming around, I did a lot of guest spots at those clubs. I did a lot of bringer shows at those clubs. When I say bringer show clubs, like in the Philly area, like when when you take a class and you got to bring people out to get your tape.
Right.
I don't know. Is that called the bringer show, Doug? Like, I don't know what rules apply.
The first night, I'm paying $350 to take 6 classes of comedy. And the first night I find out that in 6 weeks, I've got to embarrass myself in front of my family and friends, and they have to pay money. And I know they're going to spend $50 or $60, and they're going to come up to me afterwards and go, "We're proud of you for trying that, Doug."
I hate that. I remember getting comments like that. Yeah, I remember.
I learned a lot from my comedy class. Tom and I took comedy classes together. The first lesson I learned, it turned out to be, he was a sociopath comedian, also a comedy instructor. He was a sociopath. First and foremost.
Aren't we all?
No, we're not. No. I've got stories.
I'm not just talking about comedians. I'm talking about people.
Steve, if you're like this guy, we're ending the show now. So he said, So it's like, people always say, where does comedy come from? He's like, so like if you're in some place and you see something and you think, oh, that'd be really funny. He goes, yeah, it's not funny. That was it. That was the lesson. When you think you see something funny, it's not funny. So,
Anyway, anywho, before we run out of time, I know we have some time left, but Steve, what? Give us an idea where you've been performing, and tell us about your podcast.
Every Monday for now. I don't know how long it's going to last. You can catch me at AC Jokes Comedy Club at the Tropicana in Atlantic City.
Nice.
That's every Monday night. Every Tuesday, Laughing Fox Tavern, Magnolia, New Jersey, 10 minutes from Philly. That's an 8 o'clock show. I just found out I'm opening for Brad Williams at Helium Comedy Club April 1st to April 3rd.
Nice.
My podcast, Ball Breaking with Mike and Steve, is on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and YouTube. Our next episode, we air it every Thursday morning, a new episode. Our next episode, we're going to have the very funny, hilarious Brett Ernst, who is currently on Cobra Kai on Netflix, the sequel to The Karate Kid.
Nice.
So we had a chance to talk to Brett for about 50 minutes backstage, and he headlined AC Comedy Club this past weekend. I'm keeping busy. I mean, I don't know. I don't. It's funny. It's like I was just starting to break into the New York scene before COVID happened. I was going up there, Tom. We would talk about it. I would go up there 4 or 5 times a week. I'd shoot up, and COVID hit. It's like, what's the recipe going to be now to break into mainstream comedy, to see where your true place is if you really want to be seen by industry? Where do you go now? Do you go to New York? Do you go to LA? Will New York and LA exist after this? Like, as far as a comedy show business standpoint, no one really knows.
I have opined that perhaps the year-long comedy drought will encourage many non-comedians to kind of clear out. I've bemoaned for years being on these shows, seeing people who I saw no humor in at all. The only humor I saw in them was that they thought they were funny, which I thought was really funny, but I don't know that how long can you sustain a comedy career not being funny? Well, listen, I'm at 9 years.
No, I think you got to be I think having constructive criticism and being honest with yourself and seeing what have I grown everybody has individual goals. Like, some people are content with being an opener forever, or a middle act forever, or an open micer forever. They just enjoy getting up and doing it. And who's to say, that's the only thing, Doug, that I may disagree with you with. I think comedy's a lot of drive and perseverance, and I think you can get funnier. It's more or less sticking with it and treating it like work.
You think I could get funnier, Tom?
You could. I think you choose not to.
I think you're funny. So far I'm laughing.
No, honestly, every show I've done.
Not that you give a shit about my opinion.
No, honestly, though, every show I've done, I've learned something. And I will also tell you, and this is how delusional I am, which is why I don't respect my own opinion a lot. I've had very, very many long runs where I've done a show and I thought, man, this is the best show I've ever done. And then the next show, I think, wow, this is the next show I've ever done. And it's gone on for like, I once had a streak of like 4 times literally thinking that each of 4 shows was better than the one before.
But were you performing on the road or all in one place?
Huh?
Were you performing on the road or all in one area?
No, I was sleeping actually.
Bravo, buddy. That was good. That was good. No, I don't know if you guys got a chance to see any of the Comedy Store documentary. And it really, on Showtime, it really got me thinking. They interviewed Jay Leno, and he says, if you're killing in a city, like in an area like Jersey, Philly, get out of there. He's like, that's why the road's so essential. And I had an opportunity to audition as a middle for a really premier club, and at the time I had a really polished act in the tri-state area, and I had to get up and do 20 minutes in the middle of the country, and I didn't realize how regional my style is.
Yeah.
And that's why it's really important to really focus on your brand and know your audience. And you know, if you want to be a road comic that no one knows and be like a middle act that's going to go in front of anybody, you have to have an act that identifies with everybody. With that being said, you see a guy like Dom Herrera or Dice, they have their audience that goes and sees them in each town because they're centering to one type of person. So it was a learning experience for me because I only got passed at their East Coast clubs, which it was beneficial. But like, I'm going up there so confident, and a couple of the topics I brought up. Do you ever tell a joke and like the reaction you get is like, oh, it's like,
Yeah.
your dad really treats you like that? I'm like, so I was a heckle. Your father really did that to you? It's when I realized that like East Coast Italians, like we are a really messed up breed.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
No, first of all comedians are messed up. And then, yes, the Italians, and yes, the Jews, and yes, the black people and the brown people, and everybody is in comedy. I think the reason they get in comedy is because they are messed up, and comedy gives them a cover.
Yeah, Doug, you know what I was telling somebody the other day? If I didn't have stand-up like weekly to get on the stage, I'd definitely be in therapy 3 times a week, not 1.
And, you know,
But like, I need this. I need this.
No, in the drought times, I want you to know I offer psychological counseling.
Oh, I thought that's what this was.
Yeah.
I thought this was a support group.
Did Tom tell you anything about what did he say? What did he say about our podcast?
No, Tom just said, would you be open to do a podcast Monday? I said, absolutely.
Did he mention that he had a co-host at the time?
Absolutely. Yes, he did.
And what did he say about me?
He said she was beautiful and she works at Hooters by day. I mean, you wanted to know what he said. I just told you.
You didn't tell me to dress, Tom. It's fantasy.
I thought you abducted her, and now you're in front of the screen if you want to know the truth. The least you could have done is put a portrait of her right where that flower is right there in the background.
Actually, our podcast has gone through very definite evolution. We started out concentrating on having guests on our show.
Actual podcast.
Yeah, it was actually a podcast. We would have guests on our show who were like the sons and daughters of famous comedians. Like our first show was
Seriously?
Lou Costello's daughter was on our first show.
And her granddaughter and her other 2 daughters.
That's
Really?
The second show. We had both living daughters of Costello and his great granddaughter. And then we had Curly's grandson from the Three Stooges. We had, you probably don't even know the Ritz brothers, but we had the daughter of Harry Ritz.
Curly's grandson?
Who?
Yeah, I follow him on Facebook. So I was a part of the Three Stooges fan club at like 6, 7 years old, which people think's crazy.
You know,
but I was a diehard Three Stooges fan. Probably part of the reason why I think Adam Sandler is hysterical, because I just love slapstick comedy.
Yeah.
I'm a big Stooge guy, so that's cool.
Who were some of your other comedy influences?
anyway,
Mike Myers, Jim Carrey. As far as stand-ups, I liked really edgy style stand-ups like Shock Value, Dom Herrera, Dice, Sam Kinison, Carlin Pryor, Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
do you like dogs?
What's that?
Do you like dogs?
Oh no,
Do I like dogs?
not the way Doug does.
It's not. It's that dogs like me, Tom. It's listen. I'm good with animals, humans, dogs, cats.
I'm good with animals too, but it depends how they're cooked, you know.
Hey, Doug, is that Jack and Ginger starting to kick in, cuz? Is that what's happening right now? I see the hand lotion on the side over there. I don't think you meant to put that in the shot. Jesus Christ, you sick bastard.
Hey,
Holy shit, Doug.
I've been washing my hands a lot. You got a good eye. Wait a minute, you couldn't have seen that? Oh, you did. Okay, maybe you did. You're very observant, Mr. Stephen. So listen, I want to say, we began with interviewing the family of Glitterati, the greatest, the most, and Tom and I have evolved and we've improved the show, and every show that we've done in the last 2.5 years is better and better. And after the last show, we said, Tom and I talked, what can we do to make our show even better than it's been? We've done Lou Costello, all these, what can we do?
And I said, Steve Rinaldi.
Steve Rinaldi. I said,
You really dropped the ball, Tom.
Steve is the first step in the journey we must take to advance our comedy and bring it to the world. So, Steve,
you hit me with that curbed enthusiasm, Larry David bullshit.
Steve,
I appreciate you, Doug. I appreciate you.
Thank you very much for being on our show. We still got time, by the way. I'm not kicking you off, but I've enjoyed our conversation.
Yeah, thank you. And if you could plug my website, it would mean the world to my mother and all my aunts that helped me pay for it.
Okay, give us your website and the email address.
SteveRinaldiComedy.com. And that has everything on there. The Ball Breaking with Mike and Steve podcast and all upcoming shows. Get some discounted tickets on there. And I appreciate you guys for having me. And I'm serious about when you guys want to come out and work out some material at my Tuesday night room.
Magnolia is really far, but you know something?
Is it?
But you know something? I am desperate for a live audience. Because I've got to know if I've still got it. I know I don't, but I need to learn that. I need to know.
When was the last time you performed live in front of an audience?
Like 30 seconds ago.
No.
I did my dog story. I didn't do my
No,
dog.
really. When was the last time you got in front of like a live crowd, like not virtual?
Oh, wait a minute. Where was I? Tom, I did Scotty's.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
With the Coleman Green and Sharon Simon.
What was that? November? December.
He didn't fall off the stage. He was really close.
Yeah.
Tom and I don't know if you know Coleman Green.
Yeah, Coleman headlined The Laughing Fox.
So Coleman,
yeah, he's a good friend.
But Coleman is wonderful, and the first night of the show that we did, there were so few people, we knew everyone's names. In the middle of COVID, it was really funny. But anyway, I forget what I was going to say about Coleman. Oh, we were at a street show, and Coleman was doing comedy and he fell backwards, right? He
I
tripped.
seen that video
You
online.
saw that, right?
I
It was-
seen that video online. I didn't realize, I didn't know if it was a joke or it really
He
happened.
got hurt. He got hurt too.
And it
Wow.
knocked it. And because of my EMT training, I ran up to give him mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. He's like, "Get that little old Jew off of me! What are you trying to do? Oh my God!" And I was ashamed.
I don't know. I don't know if you can follow Doug. That's why I think there's a little bit of animosity between you two.
When I'm done, whenever I'm done performing, I always give the next comic something to embarrass me about, and they use that as a segue.
Yeah, he's good that way.
I remember one time I performed, and the lesbian comic that came up after me said, "You can't wash off rectal. I'm going to remember that." That was not part of one of my animal stories. That was actually a story about my son that I probably shouldn't go into now.
Well, that doesn't sound too good now.
This is my style of comedy. It's appropriate for places where people are not eating. Or right, Tom?
Yeah, you can say that.
I've gotten away with it though with people eating. I warn them. I'll tell them, take the food, take the food out of your mouth, get it away, swallow that hamburger. I know how to.
Oh, speaking of eating, Steve, I wanted to mention to you, before COVID started, before all the shutdowns and everything, there was a group of comedians that would go out for brunch once a month. The Comedians Breakfast Group, they called it. And they go to places like Ponzio's Diner in Cherry Hill, a bunch of different places. But you should look into that because there's a lot of Philly comics that go to that.
Really?
Yeah.
Does somebody pick up the check or I gotta pay?
No, you got to pay for whatever you order. But
Okay.
some places have like buffets where it's a set amount.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
If you give me a good intro when I come down to Magnolia, I'll treat you to breakfast when I meet
My
you.
man.
It's a
Doug, it's a deal, Doug.
listen. The Facebook group is Comedians Breakfast Club. Comedians S' Breakfast Club.
I'm curious what the name of it is now since COVID.
Well, they haven't been having it. Yeah.
We've had some Zoom comedy breakfasts. Not as funny, but they were nice.
But those breakfasts, you mentioned Coleman Green. Coleman and I would always fight to get in front of the other one on the buffet line.
Is that where the microphone was set up?
Well, there's no performing. We just ate and socialized.
That's great.
Yeah.
Anytime, even if one of them was at the comedian's breakfast, the waitress would have to be incredibly appalled. I'm sorry there are no more I'm sorry there are no more eggs. I don't know what happened to the bread. They'd be covering for these guys. Tom would be a really good tipper. That was before you began Weight Watchers. Tom has begun a remarkable journey from.
I thought you said in the beginning of the episode that you're calming down with coming at Tom's weight because of people's
I was
messages.
going to say he's lost an amazing amount of weight. He's probably lost a dud max of weight.
Don't exaggerate.
And then
I
he-
told you a million times not to exaggerate. I've only lost right now about 20 pounds, but I'm on my way to, shed some more.
Tom, I think you look good.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
20 pounds, you should do 20 pounds you should do your weight loss from whatever your maximum loss was in life, not since you started a diet. So like if you once weighed 673 pounds, we don't need to know it. You can say, honestly, I've lost 231 pounds. On the other hand, if you've lost 10 pounds 20 times, you can say, I've lost 200 pounds. You don't have to tell them you gained back 300.
Nice.
Marketing, Tom, what's your degree in? I have to tell you.
Marketing.
Yeah. So how do you,
Over my lifetime, I've lost 1,000 pounds then easily.
so if you're really big, how do you market yourself?
Well, I have them introduce me as I'm pound for pound the funniest comic in my pants. And sometimes he's the 14th biggest thing in comedy.
You used to say the fourth, didn't you?
14th.
Didn't I see you in a movie?
What do you mean?
Weren't you in a movie, Tom?
Yes, I was an extra. Actually, I was an extra large, but that's besides the point.
Weren't you in, what was the movie? Not Triple X. 4X? No?
Oh, no. I was in I was in the X-Men movies. I played 4X.
That was.
Thank you,
Doug,
Doug.
is that marijuana?
Yeah.
No, this
No,
is
it is.
only nicotine. I'm sorry. It's
Are
only.
your kids in the couch behind you?
Okay, next time Steve comes on the show, remind me to clean up better, okay? Listen, he saw my hand lotion. Thank God my wigs were in the briefcase in my closet. Thank God. And my
It
earrings.
puts the lotion in the basket or it gets the hose. Ay.
Guys,
Wow.
thank you for having me.
Well, thanks for being had.
This was
Seriously.
definitely a fun, unique experience, and I hope you have me back.
You have an open invitation anytime you want to come back.
Thank you,
Tom,
buddy.
What?
don't you guess? First of all, you and I need to talk and review what you
Doug, I think Tom wears the pants in your relationship.
That's true. Well, yeah.
Judging by the background and the hand lotion in there, you're probably wearing no pants in this episode, if I had to take a guess. I'm just, no, that's fun, you know.
Stand up and let him see your Spider-Man underoos. Joke trademarked by Tom. Tom, my friend Tom. I do this joke in every one of my jokes. What is it like? What does it feel? It takes maybe 3 or 4 or 5 minutes. It feels to the audience like 20. So they feel like they're getting more comedy out of it. So I've been crafting these jokes for years and years. I'm talking to Tom one day. He goes, Doug, you should be sitting on a ShamWow. I don't need to tell you the joke, but he says, I had a ShamWow. Next set. I had a ShamWow. Let's see what happens. It's a ShamWow. How good could it be? The audience goes crazy. I'm like,
The biggest laugh you got was my stupid ShamWow comment.
I've been caressing this dog, and they go crazy. Listen, it's a wonderful dog. Dog is really happy at the end of the story. Anyway, back to it's a ShamWow, and they go crack. What was the other line you gave me, Tom?
I don't know.
Another one I throw in there, and it gets laughs, and I'm like, fuck, I hate that. Keep your mouth shut. Let me ruin my own comedy on my own. It's my journey.
Sorry, Doug.
Okay, we've got a few minutes to kill. We talked very briefly about how we feel about comedy classes. Do we want to talk about comedy classes?
Comedy classes?
No.
I mean,
No.
what do you want me to comment on the class?
Be funny.
What's that?
You'd be funny for our audience member.
On a comedy class?
Remember we were
No,
talking.
I don't.
People, many comedians, if they hear you went to a comedy class, they're like, oh, you had.
Yeah, I mean, we mentioned that in the beginning. I don't know if that's worthy of.
We were recording.
What's that?
That was before we were recording, I think.
Oh, you didn't tape that?
Yeah.
No, you guys mentioned that you guys took a class together when you first started out. I took a class, and then a lot of stand-ups say sometimes that, why would you take a comedy class? But there's some top-tier comics that have took comedy classes when they were first starting out. Sebastian Maniscalco, Anthony Jeselnik, they're all quoted in saying that they took comedy classes when they first started out. So I don't know. Depends what your intention is. Like Sebastian says in his book, when he took the class, he thought it was a way to like weasel in the store. It's just the way of Italians, the way they think. All right, I'll pay $500 for this class. Maybe I could get passed at the comedy store. it worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He became a regular. Mitzi Shore passed him. You know.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking when I took a class. I wanted to break into helium. You know.
I should start writing more checks. I think that might help my comedy career, Tom.
Buying your way in.
Yeah.
Hey, what the hell?
I think you got to be fun. If you're gonna buy your way in, you got to be able to back it for sure. Not saying you can't, but I know Doug, you seem like a really, really funny guy. All jokes aside.
I hide it really well. You know when I hide it? You know when I hide my funny the best? When, Tom? When do I hide my funny the best?
On stage?
My jelly, ladies and gentlemen.
It's funny. Doug and I did a show together where I did his routine and he did my routine. And when Doug went out and did my material, he got all kinds of laughs. He had to stop and says, he had got a hearing aid. He's deaf in one ear. So he said to me, "What's that noise I keep hearing?" I said, "Doug, that's laughing." He never heard it before.
You had to be there. I was
Yeah.
playing dumb. Tom, what are these sounds? What are these sounds I'm hearing? It was beautiful. And then Tom butchered my set entirely because he really doesn't. I'm a storyteller. So I know Tom's routine. I'm great at it. Like, you know where I'm from up in North Jersey? You know Alpine?
I'm not familiar with it. No.
I'm not from there. That's what
No, I'm
Tom,
not.
that was Tom's joke. You know Alpine? Yeah, I'm not from there. He makes it funny somehow. How can somebody do that? What is it, Tom? Is it the lilt in your voice? Do you think?
No, you have to frame the joke right. It's got to be in sequence to something else that it's going to refer to, be a callback.
Doug, I know what you're doing. You're trying to pitch Tom's comedy class that he's teaching next month. I know what you're doing, Doug. That's why you segued to this topic at the end of the episode. I see what you're doing. You're a terrific host.
Only $350 a lesson, all you can eat.
All you can eat.
Do something, Steve. Let's play this game. Imagine you're a comedy instructor, right? Like people are looking at you.
I don't want to imagine that. That sounds like a horror movie.
It does, I know, but imagine you have to say the most important thing in comedy is. What would you say, Tom? What would you say? And while you're answering, I'm going to think of what I would say.
You want me to be serious or throw a punchline in? I don't know.
This is our show is called Funny Talk. We try to keep things serious.
The most serious thing in comedy is.
Tom, you have a feeling for that? What's the most important thing in comedy? I know the answer to
The
that.
most important thing, I think, timing.
Your friend's set.
The honest answer, I think the real answer, and I think you're both going to agree, is connection. When you
You have
connect,
to make a connection with the audience.
when you connect with the audience, when they're with you, when you're taking them someplace, they're with you. They feel your pain, and then they feel the laugh. They feel the laugh. And
See,
then
this is what I'm confused about. You said it was called Funny Talk. I thought we were going to work off of each other, throw a punchline in. Doug, you got to give me you got to throw me better signals here, like text it to me or something.
I've been growing my breasts.
What are you doing with your breasts?
I want to emulate you, Tom.
No, you don't.
Honestly,
Anyway,
I wish I was like young and handsome like Steve and had a chance in the comedy world.
well, let me tell you,
You're so lucky. You know that? You know
that is a definite plus on your side. It's tough to start when you're old. You need youth to learn to cut your teeth and
This
learn
is
the business.
made for TV, and we've got him on our show. And in 15 years, he'll be the
I'll be dead.
Letterman, not Letterman.
And this will go viral.
He'll be on something. He'll have his, and then we'll call him up and go, Tom, you remember we had him on our podcast 20 years ago? Yeah, let's call him up and ask him on. Hey, Steve, it's Doug Max. Who? Doug, remember you were on my podcast 20 years ago. Steve?
Very, very huge compliment coming from you guys. Wow. I really appreciate that.
No, I see big things for you, Steve. I think you're going to go far.
Tom, you're the man, bro.
You know where
Thank
I
you, buddy.
give sincere compliments like that?
What's that?
You know where I learned to give sincere compliments like that?
Let me hear the punchline. Come on, Doug. I know it's coming.
Because I needed them if I ever wanted to have sex with a woman. So I got really good. And people feel my sincerity. You know? I can go up to like an amazingly beautiful woman walking this mangy, ugly dog. Imagine the ugliest dog on earth. And I could say to her, your dog is really lovely. And she would feel that. And we'd feel connection. I can't do that anymore because I have a loving girlfriend who, thank God, never doesn't listen to the podcast.
With your luck, she's going to listen to this one.
I'm waiting.
Well,
she's very.
I think we've used up all our time. Isn't that right, Doug?
We've done enough time. Is the appropriate way to do it.
Guys,
Well,
thank you again. Really, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Steve. And I'm serious about what I said. I think you're going to go far in the business.
My man. Thanks, Tom.
And I'm serious in what I said. I think you have lovely hair.
And don't forget to call J. Irwin Productions. Contact Jack at jirwinproductions.com for a great comedy venue. And with that, I'd like to sign off. Thanks for tuning in.
I am one of your two co-hosts, Tom Mangielli. We have another co-host, me, Doug Max, and then a third co-host tonight, our special guest, comedian, Philly comedian, Steve Rinaldi.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks again.
Good being with you.
Until next time. We out?